at the Formula E UK HQ in Donington as the teams prepare to pack up all their gear and head off to Monaco for round 5. Now, although Techeetah are a new team, they boast the driver with the fastest lap time there, Jean-Eric Vergne, who at the time was racing for Andretti. So as a reminder to him and all of the drivers, we're going to take a closer look at one of the most iconic racetracks in the world. Monaco, the jewel in the Riviera. 2017 sees Formula E return to the city for one of the most famous races in motorsport. Sun, sea and glamour. But it all started with an idea to host the grandest of spectacles around the grandest of cities. The concept of a race was first suggested by wealthy cigarette manufacturer Anthony Nogues. It was Nogues who, as part of the Automobile Club de Monaco, had the idea of a race around the harbour. In 1929, the lights went out on the first race around the course that covers almost the entire country. The fans flocked into the unique circuit, which visited Monaco's most prestigious sites. In 1950, the first season of the Formula One World Championship visited the circuit, cementing its place in the history books. But it wasn't all glamour. In the 50s and 60s, a few fatal accidents took the lives of a number of drivers, and putting a car into the harbour became more likely. In 1973, the tunnel was extended further under the Fairmont Hotel, and later changes saw the installation of 4 new corners around the municipal swimming pool, as well as a more opened-up double apex right-hander at the end of the lap, Le Rascasse. Aside from Formula One, the circuit is used to host karting, World Rally Championships and historical rally series. But now the power in the Principality is all electric.
And now from one historic location to another, we are in the harbour of Monaco.
2 years ago, we saw our first E-Prix race along these hallowed streets.
We go green in Monaco.
And 2017 will see our drivers return to race around the famous corners of Saint-Devote, Tabac and Rascasse on a shortened version of the famous street circuit.
This is going to be very tight on the run down into Saint-Devote.
It's fast, tight and challenging. Running up the main straight, there's a hard right at the Saint-Devote Turn 1, named after the church off to its left, potentially a key overtaking place. The track then turns down the hill towards the harbour front, where the circuit joins the chicane of the main circuit at Turn 3. Through to back along the harbour front and into the last turns at Rascasse, the name of an old fisherman's bar, and into the final turn, Anthony Nogues, aptly named after the man who started it all 88 years ago. A new history is being written these days in Monaco, but who will stand up to the test of time? And although we've got a few glimpses of it there, let's get in the mood for Monaco by reliving Race 7 of Season 1, and what an eventful one it was.
We go green in Monaco, and it's a really good start from Buemi. He holds the lead of the race. D'Ambrosio is trying to challenge Di Grassi. Not quite close enough. Bit of a lock-up, but nothing too dramatic, as everyone will have to be so careful. Oh, there's the front wing gone of Jean-Eric Vergne. He's gone into the back of the car behind. Alguersuari's out of the race as well. Oh, and a big melee coming out and down, and that is not what we want to see at all. As Abt out of the race, it's Senna out of the race, safety car deployed. Vergne went into the back here. It then concertinaed up from behind the Andretti car. Then what happens as they come down the hill?
The Abt car hit the wall.
Oh my goodness! That's Bruno
car
Senna.
Hit the wall and Senna just went straight over the back of him.
Wow! So Bruno Senna leaping over the back of Daniel Abt. Big moment for Bruno Senna. D'Ambrosio in front, and he's using his fan boost now. Nelson Piquet Jr. He'll dart to the outside, but he's not going to be quite close enough. He'll get alongside. This is going to be very tight on the run down into Saint-Devote. Gets on the brakes, not close enough. D'Ambrosio manages to keep it together. For this car, he'll get another chance on his second car, but is that the moment? Gone! Up the inside into the harbour hairpin. Great move from Nelson Piquet Jr. He's up into third place. That was decisive as Di Grassi comes down the start-finish straight. Looks to the right, sees Piquet. Di Grassi goes past him, but where is Sebastian Buemi? That's the big question. Has Buemi managed to get out in the lead? He has, just about out of the pit lane. And it was easy to get past Nelson Piquet Jr., but it was, and they go side by side, almost touch on the run down into the hairpin. Is Di Grassi going to get around there? Yes, just about. But that must have been so close coming out the pits.
Oh, it's just where they left off when they came in.
And a look to the inside, he's lost my goodness, he just about got it stopped in time. There might have been a little touch in there earlier on, but through the final corner at Anthony Noakes comes Sebastian Buemi. The Edams driver is going to win the first Formula E race in Europe. It's the checkered flag for Buemi in Monaco. Wonderful performance from the Swiss.
Bravo. Bravo.
And a reminder, it's Sebastian Buemi who leads Lucas de Grassi by 5 points in this year's championship as the Swiss driver looks to defend his title. One driver hoping for a better result in Monaco is Felix Rosenqvist. The Swedish rookie had an untimely collision with Mahindra teammate Nick Heidfeld in Mexico, but practice makes perfect, and when it comes to cornering, he's your man.
You always have a big variety of corners like hairpins, high-speed corners, chicanes. Normally you want to check which corners you can actually make a difference in terms of racing for overtaking and so on, and the ones that actually are big for lap time. For example, here I'm standing in front of a quite tight chicane where you have relatively low curbs, which means that you can attack pretty hard. In this corner you have a very quick entry, you arrive about 200 kilometers an hour, which leads into this right, left, right section. I think it's very important here as you're like braking and turning at the same time. First of all, you have to have a really good brake bias in the car, especially in Formula E where the car is very heavy in the rear. Then here you need to obviously not overshoot the first one too much, so the second one becomes too tight. I mean, in most corners you go from the outside to the apex on the inside to the outside, but in the chicane you actually have a combination, which means that you don't really have a reference where you need to be in the middle. It's sort of little bit in the free what you have to do. Some corners have this big sausage curve, for example. If you have the car set up for that particular corner, it could be a lap time advantage, but then maybe your car is worse for other corners. The more curbs you have, I think the more technical it gets, because it's sort of about really aiming it right. And for example, the sausage curves, if you hit them a bit wrong, you can really launch the car completely up in the air, and you take it wrong, which could even be dangerous. It's a very big change for the driver as well, as when you drive with high regen, since the regen is just coming on the rear axle, it's almost like a handbrake into the corners. So you have to change your brake bias a lot. The car is very different to handle braking into the corners. So for example, this corner right here, you come braking and turning at the same time, and then when you add 150 kilowatts of regen on top of that on the rear axle, it's very easy to lose the car into the corners. At street circuits is very different in the fact that you have walls, you have concrete walls that, they're very unforgiving. If you hit them, you break the car, you crash, or you can even hurt yourself sometimes. You need to understand what the car can do and what the car wants to do and what the car could do if you change it. And you need to know the track where sometimes maybe you push very hard on an exit when the straight afterwards is very short. You sort of need to know where you need to push on entry, where you need to push in the mid corner, or you need to push on exit. And those key elements are probably the next step for anyone trying to become quicker.
One of the team rivalries that's been an absolute highlight of the FE season has been between the two Faraday Future Dragon drivers. But have you ever considered a race where there are no drivers competing at all, just cars? Well, Lucas de Grassi ponders the prospect.
So Audi has a huge history in motorsport. It's a dream brand to be involved if you like motorsport. They are always ahead. They like to test different concepts and different technologies. Currently I'm racing the FIA Formula E Championship. So Formula E is very important to promote electric mobility for two reasons mainly. First, to break the paradigm of people which thinks electric cars are boring and they are slow and they are like a Prius. They are not. They are mega quick. They are sexy, they are difficult to drive, they have instant torque. And the second is to develop the technology itself.
And the latest motor racing championship that's caught de Grassi's attention is Robo Race, the world's first driverless EV race.
I always like to be ahead of the game. I like to see how the technologies are coming and how can I help that to become a reality. And my involvement with Robo Race is kind of very interesting for me because I'm racing myself and I'm comparing myself against artificial intelligence. And at the moment we are teaching AI which are the cues, like if I'm teaching a young driver. And at one point, it will happen what I call the singularity motorsport, that I will learn something from AI. RoboRace is not meant to replace motorsport, it's not meant to attract hardcore motorsport lovers, it's meant to open for more people which they don't like motorsport, maybe software engineers, maybe kids who like gaming. And number two, people looking an autonomous car going at 300 kph, doing fast corners, taking narrow margins out of the walls, maybe will give them more confidence to sit on their autonomous car back home. For my kids, I think it's very unlikely they will take their driving license. And the analogy I use is very simple. In the 1800s, you needed horse to go from A to B. So horse was your way of mobility. Everybody needed to know how to ride horses. Nowadays, you only ride horses if you like to ride horses. That will happen with cars. I think motorsport will turn into more of a niche sport and a way of having fun.
And there's plenty more fun to be had after the break, so stay with us. Still to come, on board in Mexico, who to call on when this happens, and gearing up for Monaco. This week's Street Racers is back at the UK home of Formula E, Donington. This is where most of the teams are based between races and are now making final preparations before the next fixture on the FE calendar, Monaco. Here in Donington, we've made it to the Jaguar garage. Now, round 4 in Mexico may have seen Abt Schaeffler's Lucas di Grassi steal the headlines with his first win of the season, but it also proved to be a landmark weekend for one of the new teams on the FE circuit.
We're in Hong Kong, ready for the start of season 3. Away we go!
Wasn't able to complete the race today through an electrical issue that we found earlier in the day. A lot to absorb, and I can't wait to get back into it.
And race 2 is going, it's a great start! On board with Mitch Evans.
Unfortunately, the pace wasn't too great. Overall, quite tough, but at least we got some lot of data. I know we've got some fast guys around us. It's going to be tough to stay here.
And we go green in Buenos Aires. And oh, it's Adam Carroll. It's Adam Carroll in the Jaguar. Didn't get off the line.
Adam, is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm moving.
Okay, copy that, Adam. You need to respect the full course yellow.
Okay, yes, sorry, a bit early, yes.
Mitch Evans has been given a 5-second time penalty for overspeeding under full course yellow. 11th for Mitch Evans.
And Adam Carroll is a great driver too. Obviously had the problem at the start of the race.
Exponentially better showing from Jaguar than the first 2 races.
Really looking forward to building on that, learning and that development and bringing it here to Mexico City.
Mitch Evans, quicker than Lucas di Grassi. What a fantastic lap from Evans. All 5 lights are on, and we go green in Mexico City. Great to see the Jaguars up there. That's Mitch Evans in the second of the 2 Jaguars, up behind his teammate Adam Carroll.
Loving the fact that the Jaguars are sitting there line astern as well. The cars in front are not getting away from them, and they're looking competitive.
Mitch Evans, meanwhile, has got him into 7th place in that Jaguar, past Nico Prost. Great stuff from Mitch Evans, another wonderful race from him. Adam Carroll, his teammates, 9th as well. Mitch Evans should be able to finish 4th here for Jaguar. What a result that would be. Mitch Evans finishing in 4th place.
Both Jaguars in the top 10.
One of those crazy races where anything can happen. Really happy to get a lot of points for the team, and gives us a lot of confidence going into Monaco.
Yeah, what a race. You know, we kept our heads, we pushed when we had to push, and a massive reward for the team today, hugely deserved, and great to see we've made another really positive step forward.
While Jaguar was celebrating, one driver wondering what might have been was Daniel Abt. The German thought he'd secured his 2nd career FE pole in round 4, only to be pushed back 17 places for a tyre pressure fault. So probably a good moment to take a step back and reflect on what keeps him going.
Well, basically my family inspired me to take it racing because I grew up in a racing family, and my uncle raced, my father used to race and ran the racing team, and my grandfather raced, so hard to not get into racing with that type of family. My uncle was definitely helping me quite a lot early on because he had a lot of racing experience, so he really tried to teach me stuff. Actually also jumped in my car to help me set it up and stuff, so it was quite helpful to have someone like him. My first ever race was in karting. It was close to Munich, and I was, I don't know, six or 7 years old, really young, had no idea of racing, and I showed up there and it was raining, so it was even, was completely madness, and I had no idea how to do it, and I was so slow, but somehow everyone crashed out of the race, so I managed to finish third because I just finished, and I didn't realize what was going on, but I remember that. It took me quite a while to realize that I want to be a racing driver, because when I was young, for me karting was a hobby, was not a profession or something serious, was just fun. And then when I was the first time in a Formula car, that was really the point where I saw, okay, now it's getting serious, now I have to make a decision, do I want to keep on doing that or not? And that's when I decided that I want to keep going and get a race driver. I feel like I'm too young to give advices already, but I think no matter what you do, just be yourself first of all, believe in yourself. I think that's the most important thing, and just keep doing it, and one day the hard work will pay off.
Back here in Donington, we've made it to the MS Amlin Andretti garage, where both drivers will be looking for a change of fortune. Round 1 in Hong Kong remains the only place where Antonio Felix da Costa and Robin Frins secured points, and that was largely thanks to one of the unsung heroes of the sport.
Formula E is different to many other championships in that it's a centrally run operation with all the teams running the same chassis, bodywork, front suspension and other components. The drivetrains at the rear of the car might well be open to design and development by the teams, but Formula E supplies the spares for everything else. So if you're a Formula E team and this happens, where do you go? Well, the answer is right here. So Andy, you're in charge of the entire spares operation at Formula E. What exactly does that job entail?
It mainly entails keeping all the 40 cars on the grid, making sure the teams have got all the parts they need at the right time.
Can't imagine that's an easy task, because particularly on the street circuits, they must be constantly bouncing off the walls and constantly turning up at your door.
Yeah, concrete blocks are probably our biggest enemy, but it makes for good customers.
I had a big shunt in the qualify, and to build up an entire new car in like 2 hours for the team is really impressive. So I'm really proud of the team, and the P6 goes to them.
Can you remember a race weekend that sticks in your mind as being the worst one ever?
Uruguay.
Uruguay?
Yeah, that's it's a car killer. No idea why, but well, I think we went through about 15 sets of suspension in one day. Actually, probably more like 20, I think. It was chaos.
So there's a lot of planning and preparation that goes in. I know you make it look easy, Andy, but it's probably not, is it?
It's a lot of guesswork, and we can look historically on some of the circuits we've been to before. We can work out, say we used 10 front wings at that event, so you can gauge it on that.
And what about over the course of a race weekend? What's the sort of the highs and lows for you? There must be a worst point in a weekend.
The worst point is when you see 1 or 2 or 3 cars going a wall together, because you know then it's going to get rather busy here for a little while. The best point is, I would say, putting the covers on and going home.
Robin Frins in the pits. There you go, there's the
it's
car.
It's got a bare carbon with a few logos on, but it's got wheels, it's got a powertrain, it's got bodywork. It had none of this. It was literally a bare tub.
Got to applaud the MS Amlin guys for that job. The Andretti team, just first class.
And this is a chassis he has literally never even sat in.
So just like everything else in Formula E, even the spares department has to be meticulously planned and prepared to keep the whole thing running efficiently.
No matter how meticulous you are, once in the hot seat, anything can happen, as round 4 in Mexico once again proved.
All 5 lights are on, and we go green in Mexico City.
Lucas, try to close the gap.
So you should be flat out now, flat out.
Are we all going to get through safely further back? Just about. De Grassi does a little bit of grass cutting, loses out as a result to Nico Frost.
Should du sous-virage de fou.
Follow your dashboard for the strategy number. Should be 7.
Oh, and there's an accident in there, and that is going to be Maro Engel, who's gone into the back of Lucas de Grassi. De Grassi will hope he hasn't picked up too much damage there. Gutierrez loses a couple of places. From the lead of the race, Oliver Turvey has run into trouble.
Jeff will be getting close to flat out.
Burn up the inside of Lopez. They have a little bit of a rub.
You need to tell me what is going on. I thought I was in the lead and I'm not in the lead.
Can he get it done this time? They rub wheels again.
Cut the chicane.
Stay calm, stay calm.
Whoa, there goes Rosenquist.
I mean, he's a joke, this guy. He's a joke.
Midfield should be flat out as well now.
You've got 26% more energy than Di Grassi and D'Ambrosio.
Round goes Heidfeld, pirouetting in the stadium and then a shunt, and the two teammates hit each other.
D'Ambrosio will be struggling on energy.
Turn 13
Big
here.
locker,
Oh, he
it's
made a
up,
mistake.
in the wall,
This is it.
not quite. Vern tries to get the inside.
Fantastic, Lucas. Fantastic.
Well, we've made it back to Jaguar as the final bits and pieces are being packed up and getting ready to be shipped off to Monaco. But first, let's see what their driver Mitch Evans had to say when we put him under the spotlight. Name.
Mitch.
Age.
22.
Team.
Panasonic Jaguar Racing.
Favourite animal.
Jaguar.
Childhood ambition.
To become Formula 1 world champion.
Adult ambition.
To be a successful racing driver.
Sporting hero.
I'd have to say Michael Schumacher.
Toughest opponent.
Myself.
Worst habit.
Forgetting things.
Best moment in Formula E.
Being announced as a driver for Panasonic Jaguar Racing.
Which superhero would you be?
Probably Batman.
First song or album you ever bought?
Would have been Eminem. Probably Curtain Call.
Worst chat-up line?
Might have been pretty successful so far, so I haven't got the worst one. No, I'm just kidding.
Greatest moment in life?
I would have to be winning the GP3 championship in 2012.
Broken any bones?
Nope. Touch wood.
If you weren't a racing driver, what would you be?
Great question. I'd love to be like either a football player or an actor.
Best dance move?
I'm a horrible dancer. It's probably just standing still.
From quickfire to a quick look at what's been happening in the world of EVs and FE. First up, you may recall back in December, we brought you the launch of Next EV Neo's world's fastest EV, the Neo EP9. Now, taking limited pre-orders for a mere $1.48 million, you may find their newest car a little more affordable. The Neo ES8 has now been unveiled, a 7-seater SUV aimed at the mainstream China market, which will launch properly at the end of the year. Elsewhere on social media, Lucas de Grassi is clearly looking forward to the prospect of a weekend break. Sebastian Buemi is excited about the release of the latest action hero movie. Paris Hilton clearly enjoyed her weekend spin in Mexico with FE CEO Alejandro Agag. Sorry, Jean-Eric Verne, but what happened in Paris was too good not to stay there, as he and Alejandro enjoyed a bonding moment. And Verne is among several of our FE drivers supporting the campaign to raise money for young driver Billy Monger. The 17-year-old tragically suffered life-changing injuries at a recent Formula 4 event. We wish Billy all the best too. Well, that's it from Donington. All the gear is packed up and ready to go. So we'll see you next time in Monaco for round 5. And we have a special surprise in store. So make sure you tune in. We'll see you then.
And now from one historic location to another, we are in the harbour of Monaco. We go green.